she gave us like 7 graphic organizers just to make one live paragraph.
So like you have to fill out the planner, and then the other one where you write your thing, you only have to fill out one of the things.
She makes assignments so hard and so
She makes it so
And
complicated.
then you just have to write one paragraph. But really, all you have to do is copy and paste what you wrote in the boxes,
Yeah, just put it in order.
and then like make it crazy.
Yeah.
She makes it so hard. Just tell us to write a
Right, and she's gonna grade it with an extra.
Right.
Right.
It's gonna be 2 weeks after the grading period, and then she's gonna finally grade it.
When's the last time she graded?
And then you have like a divided, and then like you can't do anything about it.
Right.
She like already graded it.
It was like,
It's terrible.
when was it? It was sometime in January, I know that. Because it was
At the end of last try, she graded over Thanksgiving away.
Yeah. And then she started grading stuff at like 10 at night for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, hello? Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing today?
That was
Well, you know what? It's Wednesday. That's reason for an extra long day. What's the matter?
I'm doing real bad because my computer's not loading.
It's not loading?
No,
Ooh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Sometimes you have to shut it down and start over again. I'll do what all tech support tells you to do the first time.
The last 3 days.
What are we doing today?
I don't know what you're doing all day, but I can tell you what you're doing in chemistry. It's written on the board. Read it.
I know.
Yes. It's what it's up there for. Come on and grab one. So, oh, lefty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with some names and compounds. So you're going to need a piece of paper.
I'm not
No, you're not. Are they graded?
Yeah, probably.
I don't even think you have to go though.
The ones that know, I know.
Yeah.
I just put on and like. And yesterday I had 2 on at the same time. I had my screen.
I mean, they honestly might not be graded. But like,
Right.
everything in this class is.
All right.
He posts so much.
Yeah.
Jared, phone away, case. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, phones away, headphones out. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Cynthia, let me do an ear check. I don't trust you today.
What?
Okay. What's on your desk behind your big ugly cup? No, the other thing.
My keys?
Okay, put those away too. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Why are you so picky today?
Why not?
Doesn't trust your keys.
I don't trust their keys.
Where are your
You think,
keys?
well, I'm
In my pocket where they belong, why?
Oh,
Okay, so yesterday we finished up with the naming and writing acids. So today what I'm going to do is we're going to give you a bunch of time to work on things because I haven't been giving you a whole lot of time lately. Couple of reminders. Number 1, your test is on Friday. Okay? Yeah, I know. It's okay. So your test is on Friday, and then, ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks from tomorrow is the last day for any later missing work that you have to get turned in. So double check, look, make sure you're not missing any quizzes, make sure you're not missing any labs, make sure everything is turned in. Homework doesn't matter towards your grade. If you're missing homework, it's not counting against you, it's not counting for you. That will help you on your test, but it's not counted against you if you don't turn it in. Homework is not part of your grade, okay? So, again, we have covered binary ionic compounds, 2 elements, metal and a nonmetal. We have covered ternary ionic compounds, 3 or more elements with a polyatomic involved. In most cases, the polyatomic is the negative ion. However, here with ammonium, it is a positive ion that would begin a compound. If you're with one of the negative ions of metal, will begin your compound. The only compound that will not begin with a metal is a ternary ionic compound that has ammonium with it. Then there are binary covalent compounds. Again, only 2 elements but 2 nonmetals. That is the naming system that uses all the prefixes and things. And then the last thing we covered was acids, and there are 2 kinds of acids. There is a binary acid and there is a ternary acid. Those are the things that are going to be on your test tomorrow, Friday. Now, 60 of the 70 points on your test are simply writing a name for a formula or a formula for a name. So that is by far the majority of your test. Then there are 10 points of other questions on there. And finally, some bonus questions on there. So that is what your test is made of. Questions. Okay. So then what I would like you to do is write formulas for the following names. All of these are acids, obviously, because they all end in acid. You're going to need your periodic table, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to need it to know what the compounds involved are. Please remember, every acid begins with what element? Hydrogen. Every formula. Whether it says hydro or not, every acid begins with hydrogen.
What'd you get? Yeah, what'd you get?
I'm still two. The first one I got HCl.
You're welcome.
And then the little HCl.
HCl.
Yeah, the C and the H is that.
Oh. Are we ever supposed to do charges?
You have to do charges with these to balance them out. Acids are like binary ionic, or are like ionic compounds. You have to do the charges. But the nice part about an acid, what's the charge on hydrogen? It's a +1, so you never have to worry about reducing them. But you do need to take the charge of what it is with, either the element or the polyatomic, and that charge goes down by the hydrogen. Okay? So if it's a -2, you're going to have H2. If it's with a -3, you're going to have H3. Okay? But you never have to worry about putting anything in parentheses, because the only thing that ever goes by the non-metal or the anion that it's with is a 1.
So I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, let me take a look. I'll be there in a second, Brenda.
Okay, me too. I don't know. What is this? The second?
Okay. The second one is not binary. Why? Because it doesn't have overlap.
Okay.
So now turn your periodic table over and find a polyatomic that, because that ends in ic acid, comes from an 8 polyatomic.
CHLO.
Okay, so write iodine. Begin by writing that formula for it. Now put that with hydrogen.
But it doesn't have H.
All acids have to begin with hydrogen. All of them.
So it's H in front.
Correct. And then balance it off.
Thank you.
Can I ask why you said iodic but you wrote nitric?
Oh, I am.
So you're doing the right thing, but now make sure you use the right formula.
So is that right there? Okay. So H3I.
No, not H3. What's the charge on IO3?
Oh.
What's the charge on IO3? -1. So IO3, put aqueous after it.
Oh.
Okay? Yes, fine. Okay. Hydrochloric. That means there are only 2 elements.
it's just trying to if you think there's like 6 different
No, that's not church.
six different bonds that involve.
Yeah.
It was
It's-
I don't remember like all the rules.
Yeah.
The rules like
The charge and CL.
I don't know.
So they
That's
all
what it
so tall.
Wait, I think I say.
Now, afterwards, put AQ.
For
Below and afterwards, you put AQ.
Isn't that really what
AQ means
I don't get how to
it's
there's
dissolved
another
water,
one.
which all acids have to do.
in the
Very
So we always put AQ minus to tell us that it's
It's
acid.
It's like the
So
same
if your
thing.
compound begins with hydrogen, it
That's
has
the-
AQ after it, has to be some sort of
Ternary
acid.
ionic ones.
Okay? Now, other things
So
can
if they
have
don't have
AQ
hydro in
after
front,
it,
they're gonna be back here.
they may or may not be
this
acids.
Oh,
But all the
words for
compounds have
Alright, now the second one, iodic, is not a binary acid. Okay, it has 3 elements involved. So turn your periodic table over. Okay. If it, okay, good, you found it right away, iodate, right? Okay, so write that iodate, IO3. Put it with hydrogen at the beginning. Sorry, at the beginning. I should have told you that. I didn't realize you were writing that close to the edge. Hydrogen is always the start of every acid. Now, check your charges. What's the charge on IO3? Okay, so by the hydrogen, since that's a -1, you only write a 1, so we don't write that. The nice part about these compounds, hydrogen is always equal. So there's never gonna be anything that goes by these. But if these have a charge of -2 or -3, that's gotta go down by the hydrogen. AQ. There you go. Okay? So if it begins with hydro, you know there's only 2 elements. If it doesn't, you gotta turn your periodic table over and find out what polyatomic the name came from. Okay? We put hydrogen in the element or the name. All acids begin with the element hydrogen. All of them. So when you see that it's an acid, you can start out by putting H first, because that's going to be in every acid. H is going to be first. It doesn't matter if it's in the name or not. To be an acid, it has to have hydrogen in it. Has to. And that's what begins it. Some of the names have hydro in it, because that tells us that it's binary, only 2 elements. The other ones, there's no hydro in it, but it still begins with hydrogen. Okay? How we doing? Questions? Okay, chlorus. Okay, first of all, you're gonna begin with hydrogen, so put hydrogen first. Okay, now chlorus, an OUS ending, comes from an ITE polyatomic. So can you find a polyatomic on here that is close to chlorite? Okay, so chlorate is ClO3, right? To be chlorite, we have to lose 1 oxygen. So instead of ClO3, it's ClO2. So with that hydrogen, you're gonna put ClO2. Okay, now what's the charge on ClO3? Okay, so that means down by the hydrogen, you would write a 1, but since we never write 1s, you're done. Put AQ with it. Yep, AQ. Okay. All right. Anybody else need a hand? Questions?
We look at it.
Yes, we will. Yes, definitely.
What if a polyatomic has IC?
If you're what do you mean IC? Okay, so that an IC acid is going to come from an ATE ending on a polyatomic. Okay. Nope, that's for ternary. Okay, that's for ternary.
It's not.
So when you're looking at permanganic, that would come from permanganate.
I thought it was okay.
Same thing.
That goes on to those rules on the right-hand side there, those 3 boxes. So look at the bottom one for per. What does it mean happened?
Permanganate.
that we've done what?
Gain.
Gained an oxygen. So now you would take manganate and you would add an oxygen to it.
On the back.
That would become permanganate.
They have the same oxygen.
Okay.
They have different charges.
So what is it?
Is it manganate?
What?
Is it manganate or permanganate?
What do you mean?
Because there's
The second
two.
to last.
That's why I asked you to erase permanganate.
Okay, so it's not that one.
No,
Got it.
no. I asked you to erase that one because I said it was going to confuse us later on if we didn't. Okay? So, all right, let's take a look at these, ladies and gentlemen. And again, today I'm going to give you some time to work on these. So you've got a whole worksheet that is waiting for you to do, to work on, to get these. But again, half of the battle with these, ladies and gentlemen, is to recognize which naming system you are using. Now, with acids, it's pretty easy to figure out which one you're using because they end in the word acid. But some of you are getting confused because, again, some of them say hydro, some of them do not. It doesn't matter if the name has hydro or if it doesn't. All formulas for acids begin with the element hydrogen. All of them. Okay? All of them begin with the element hydrogen. So as soon as you see that it's an acid, write down H. Because all of them begin with hydrogen. Okay? So every one of these formulas, ladies and gentlemen, every one of these formulas is going to be H something. Okay? That's what it's going to be. Now, the ones that have hydro in them. Hydro means binary. Binary means there are only two elements involved. So you need to look at the last part of the name, chloric, and ask yourself, of the elements that are nonmetals, these up in the corner here, which one of those do you think the word chloric comes from? Chlorine. Okay? Chlorine. So, okay. So that means this compound is going to be hydrogen, which is a +1, and chlorine, which is a -1. Now again, the nice part about hydrogen being a +1, if we do the crisscross method, that ends up by the second part of the acid, which means we are never going to have to put anything in parentheses. We are never going to have to put any number by the element that the hydrogen is with or by the polyatomic that it is with. However, if this has a charge of -2 or -3, we do need to bring it down by the hydrogen to balance it off. Since this is a -1, there is no charges needed. So it is HCl. The last thing we do to identify something as an acid is we put AQ, aqueous, with it. Now, other things can be aqueous. Other compounds can be aqueous. All aqueous means is dissolved in water. So, do you remember when we did the copper chloride in the aluminum foil lab? Where we stirred the copper chloride with the aluminum foil and it started to get hot and bubbly and all that stuff? The copper chloride was aqueous. It was dissolved in water. Okay? It didn't start out that way. When you put the water in there, it became that way. Acids have to be in water because they increase what is called the hydronium ion, H3O+. So they have to be with water to become what we call an acid. Okay? So all acids will have AQ after them. All of them. Has to. But you may see AQ after something and it not be an acid. Has to begin with H, has to end with AQ to be an acid. Question. Okay. So let's go down to hydrophosphoric because it's another binary one. By the way, on a test, this would be a good thing to do. As you're going through, find all the binary acids and name them. They're easy. There's only 2 elements there. So find the ones that begin with hydro, write their formulas. Okay? So hydrogen for hydro,
Phosphoric would come from which of the elements in that upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner? Phosphorus. Phosphorus is a P for the symbol, and it is a -3 charge because it is in group 15. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, when we write our formula, what goes down by the hydrogen? The 3 goes down there. H3P AQ. There is your compound, ladies and gentlemen. Questions? Okay. Let's do hydroboronic. Now be careful. Boronic comes from what? Boron. Don't confuse that with bromic, which would come from bromine. Okay? And believe me, I have seen people who are pretty good at chemistry. They will hear a name and they'll be like, oh, that's got to be a B because it's bromine. No, bromine is Br. Boron is just B. So sometimes you do everything correct, but you use the wrong symbol and it messes you up. Okay? So H plus 1. Now what's the charge of boron? It's actually a -5, and I just realized I probably shouldn't have done this to you because I said I wouldn't give that to you, but since this is an example, okay, I guess I'm not too terrible with it. I wouldn't do this on a test to you. It's actually -5, Cynthia, because, again, if you look at the pattern, and I'm sorry, I didn't know if you said it or not, but -1 for fluorine, -2 for oxygen, -3 for nitrogen, -4 for carbon. What would boron be? -5. It is in the family where it's also a +3, but nonmetals can never be positive. So the best we could do is say that it would be a -5. Okay?
Because the ones at the bottom after +4 and be like
+5, +6. Yes. 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 Correct. Okay? Because again, it's a pattern. And that's what we're relying on with these is the pattern that we set. I don't think hydroboronic acid even exists. It could, probably doesn't. Google tries to switch it to bromic. Okay? So, again, though, we're naming these things based on a pattern that we have established. Okay? And all we're doing is doing that, naming it based on the pattern. So, what would be the formula for hydroboronic acid? H what? AQ. Good. Questions? Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we've got the ones that are not binary. Okay? That are not binary. So hydro means binary. Okay? No hydro means ternary. Now, here's the key to ternary acids. If it is an ic acid, it comes from an 8 polyatomic. So in other words, it had to have an 8 ending, and that's why we make it an ic acid. Okay? Now that's the list on the back of your periodic table. Most of those end in ATE. However, you could also have an OUS acid. Okay? That OUS came from an ITE polyatomic. ITE comes from an ATE polyatomic losing 1 oxygen. And that we have on the back of our periodic table. On the back of our periodic table, in those boxes, we wrote down it means to lose 1 oxygen to become an ite. Hypo has to have an ITE ending, and it means you've lost 2 oxygens. Per means that you have gained 1 oxygen and you have an ATE ending. So any polyatomic that ends in ATE or ITE, we can make a ternary acid out of it using these rules. Can you make an acid out of cyanide? Look at the back of your periodic table, the polyatomic cyanide. Can you make an acid out of it? Why not? Because it has an IDE ending, and we've never given you any rules for that. Okay? Now, does that mean there aren't some rules out there? Probably, but again, I'm not trying to kill you with this naming system. We're just trying to get the basics down. Okay? So, iodic would come from what polyatomic? What? Iodate. Iodate is IO3, and it is a -1 charge. We're going to put that with hydrogen still, with is a +1 charge. So when we are done with our charges, what is our formula? H HiO3AQ. Questions? Okay. Chlorous acid comes from what polyatomic? Chlorite. Chlorite is ClO2. It is a -1 charge. When we put it with hydrogen, which is a +1 charge, what do we get? Chlorate is about 1/3 of the way down on the back of your sheet. You're right, it does. Okay, but again, we didn't want to make this table 4 times the width that it is. Okay? We didn't want to make this 4 times the width that it is. Chromate, CrO4, becomes chromite if you lose 1 oxygen. So any of these that end in ATE could become an ITE ending, and it means that we're going to drop 1 of the oxygens in the compound. So bromate will become bromite, and it will become BrO2.
So chlorite would be CiO2.
Not Ci, Cl.
Oh, ClO.
ClO2. It's ClO3. We would lose 1 oxygen. It would become chloride. If it became ClO, it would have lost 2 oxygens, and it would be hypochlorite. If it gains 1 oxygen and becomes ClO4, it becomes perchlorate. And that's as far as we went. Lose 1 or 2 oxygens or gain 1 oxygen. That's it. Okay? So again, sorry, we lost everything here. Chlorous becomes chlorite, or comes from chlorite. That's hydrogen, which is a +1, and ClO2 together. Quit fading off. Come on, just finish it. Finish it. That's your compound. Questions?
Why 2?
Why 2? Because that's what chloride is. Chloride is ClO2.
Oh yeah, losing 2.
And it has a -1 charge.
Oh, I placed my phone in the wrong place. That's why I was confused.
Okay? Now again, this 2 down here has nothing to do with the charges up here. So you're not crisscrossing that. You're crisscrossing these charges up on the top. And all you need to look at is the charge of this, because it goes down by the hydrogen. Hydrogen always is a +1, so it will put nothing by the polyatomic that it is with. Permanganate or permanganic comes from permanganate. What is the formula for permanganate? What?
Manganate or permanganate? Because they're different.
What did I say?
You said.
Permanganate, but you
Well, you told us to cross that one out.
Go up 4 or 5 from the one you crossed off. There's manganate there, right?
Yes.
Which means we
So
can make it.
It's MnO5.
Thank you.
It's the per with the extra oxygen.
Because per in front means you've added 1 oxygen. That's why I asked you to cross off the one at the bottom, because it was going to confuse you. Correct.
Why is it there? I thought you used like 2 space for your home.
I put it on here. Then I realized that it was going to confuse you. So I asked you to take it off so that it wouldn't confuse you.
Well,
And now what is it doing? It's confusing you. I'm sorry. What's the charge of permanganate? According to manganate, -2. So we have to put this with hydrogen. H plus 1, MnO5, which is a -2. So what would our formula be? AQ. Okay? Questions? Good. Okay, write names for these compounds.
what the freak?
Again, if I were you, first thing I would do is identify the binary ones, because the binary ones are going to begin with what? Hydro. So identify those, do those first. They all start with hydrogen, but not all of them are binary. Cynthia, you got to get, this is what makes it an acid, beginning with hydrogen. But certain names begin with hydro and certain names do not. So do the ones that begin with the hydro name. Okay. Binary, 2 elements. More than 2 elements, more than 2 elements, 2 elements, more than 2, 2 elements. Daniela, did you need a hand? I thought I saw someone over here raise a hand. Leaf, was it? No, we're good. Don't see
I
we're
think it's the
okay.
same way the carbon is. I thought it was carbon.
When?
I feel like it is carbon.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just go when you gotta leave. Just go when you gotta leave. Don't be late because they will leave without you. Because Miss Coleman's like this. We're leaving.
What? That's so stupid. It's not carbon.
But it is boring.
Oh my god.
That's
That makes so sense.
I know some of the naming is confusing with the endings.
Yeah.
But again, you should be able to reason through it. And I will accept minor spelling errors.
Like if I spell boron, that's not board.
Correct.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm going to do that.
Now, what I can't accept is if you spell an ITE ending when you meant to do an ATE ending.
Yeah.
I can't accept an IDE ending when you meant to do an ITE ending. But again, if for phosphorus, which becomes phosphide, you did phosphoride, I would still give you credit for that, even though you didn't quite go back far enough. Okay? Yes. What is the what? For which one? When it's an ITE ending, it becomes an OUS acid.
So the first one, since it has a 4 would
Don't worry about the numbers. Is it binary or not?
Depend on the charge.
The name, no, the formula depends on the charge. The name does not. So you can assume when you see a formula, in ionic compounds, when you see formulas, you do not have to worry about the numbers down below. Okay, that's to make the charges balanced. If it is a covalent binary compound, 2 nonmetals together, then we need to worry about the numbers because we need to describe how many of each there is. We don't do that with this. There's no prefix. There's no mono. There's no di. There's no tri. Nothing like that. So you name, in the binary case, you put hydro,
and then you name what it is with, and you change the ending to ic acid. So what's it with? Carbon. Change that to an ic acid. Yes, Brenda.
I mean, I don't know how, but I would just say it's 8. So
Sodium is
you're
in
losing
the-
two oxygen. So
Can I add one thing to that? Binary ion. The term binary means two. Okay. You can have a binary ionic, which is a metal and a non-metal. But you could also have a binary covalent compound, which is two non-metals.
So we just change.
Now the two non-metals, that was the last naming system we did, where we did like carbon tetrachloride. The prefixes tell you how many were there. But in an ionic, because there's charges, there's only one way to write things. You need your charges to balance off to equal 0. Okay? Now here's the good news. These charges are equal to 0, so we don't need to worry about that. So we put hydro because it's only 2 elements. So what would, if we were to make that an ic acid, what would that become?
I'm not that convinced of
Why not?
it because
So what would we make carbon?
What does that mean?
bit,
Yeah.
B-I-T, like an add.
We'll try.
Interesting.
My name, you
Yeah,
can.
interesting.
I'm not. I don't want.
You know,
I could have gone with my dad. My dad would. But he doesn't look like me, so I wouldn't want to know.
You don't have to worry about putting the AQ in the name. By saying that it's an acid, you're telling someone that when they write the formula, it has to be AQ. So, all
She doesn't, she's not
binary
in.
ion, all binary acids begin with the term hydro and end with ic acid.
True, but I've
The
never
middle
lived
part
with it.
has
I
to
don't
be
find
the
it
element
else,
name
so-
of what it's with. Okay?
I don't look like it, though. I'm not all.
I'm just kidding.
I also wear glasses.
So, for carbon, you could either do
Literally.
carbic,
Do you even how much
acid,
prescription are in your lessons?
or if you did carbonic acid.
Are you really blind or are you just semi-blind?
Okay?
Yeah.
Main thing is it has to have that ic acid
No,
on
I'm
the end.
semi-blind.
You're right, actually.
So if you drop, normally they drop the last
You're
couple
not that
letters
bad.
of the name. With carbon,
Holy.
you can put carbonic,
Yeah, my
or
right
you
eye
can
is
put
shit.
carbic.
Actually, it's
I would
not
give
as
you credit
bad.
for either
Actually.
one.
Can you see with those?
Yeah.
Alright?
Yeah,
Yes,
I have to kind of focus
they're a little
bit.
bit. They're a little bit more than these.
that's what we were just talking about.
I mean,
In
these are a little bit
a
more.
binary
than
acid,
like just a tiny bit.
it ends ic acid.
You close your
It
left
begins
eye,
hydro
right?
and ends
You
ic
can
acid.
see what
So
I
what
can
element
see
are you
without-
putting in the middle?
When I close my left eye.
Do you see
What
less on
element
this
is
side?
hydrogen?
No, I'm blind during my right. Yeah, I'm blind during my right.
Yeah.
Hydro,
I can tell.
carbonic,
Yeah, I
Acid.
can't see anything through this one.
or hydrocarbic. I'll accept either one.
So just,
I used to be able to see them like that.
I know what happened.
Well,
kinda see
it's
that.
dropping the
Yeah,
ending
you
of
see glasses?
the
Yeah.
element normally and changing it to ic
That's a little
acid.
disgusting. I can't read
So
that.
like bromine,
Really?
we're gonna drop the
That's a
ion,
lot of glare
it's gonna
from where
become
I'm at.
bromic acid.
yeah, that could be.
Carbon
But-
is a little bit harder.
I can read
So
the
if you
pure
wrote
head,
carbonic,
find it
or
out.
if you wrote carbic,
You
I
can
would
read what it
accept
says.
either one.
Not the little words. I can't read the little words with my glasses.
Can you read the
Selenium.
chemistry definition?
So hydroselenic acid.
Chemistry
go
is a
with that.
branch of physical science.
But is it only
that-
2 elements?
Yes.
So what's in the name?
That is the.
Okay, but I didn't know if you'd said
Structure,
that.
properties.
I did.
Okay, I'm just double checking.
I could start through it.
Maybe I got
Questions? Anybody else?
Yeah, you need glasses, bro.
I mean, I have
So take it there.
Well,
It's not bad. They're really big.
I'm done.
Did you ever have my sister in your class? Probably not. Huh?
Who's that?
Yeah, you don't. You don't know her. Then.
Here's the thing, you'd have to give me a name before I could even,
Yeah,
Tell
you
you.
don't know her. You'd probably be like, oh, is this your?
Wait, which one?
Sabrina? Selena. Or Sabrina, actually.
No, I don't think he has.
I don't think he had
how much
either.
older are they?
23 and
How
19.
many years older than you are they?
3 and 6.
So that would have been, did they take chemistry or conceptual? Because Mr. Arch was doing most of the chemistry.
One's
teaching.
dumb, one's smart, so I don't know.
So what does that make you?
I bet Sally probably knows.
I'm average. I think.
Okay.
She's the dumb one.
No, I'm not.
Sorry, I don't know, I don't remember, I'm sorry. I might have, I don't.
Selena kind of looks like me.
So just ask him when you go home. Just ask him. Did you have the teacher who yelled at the start of every class? You'll know right away if they had me or not.
I don't think so, man. I
Okay.
can't remember. Maybe my older sister has you, but I don't know.
Now I might have had them when they were freshmen too.
No, I think they had art.
Oh, physical science.
Correct. But if they're that old, that might have been before we even had trimesters, and therefore they might not have had me for physical science. Who knows? Who knows? All right.
How long have you been teaching?
How long have I been teaching? 26 years.
Really?
All right.
You've been teaching longer than Mr. Nelson's been alive.
Yeah, I know. He reminds me of that too. Thank you. Okay. So again,
Wait, so Mr. Nelson's 20 what?
5.
Bro, his mom is my mom's age.
Okay. First thing you need to identify.
How old is your mom?
H4C, binary or ternary?
So he had him like at 20.
Shh. Hey, focus.
What?
Binary or ternary?
Binary.
No.
No, what?
It's not binary.
Oh, I thought we were in the first one.
Well, no, I've already done that, but if you were paying attention, you would know. The third one, binary or ternary? Now, if you're wondering how you can tell the difference, okay, you count the number of capital letters. A binary compound, whether it is ionic, covalent, or acid, only has 2 different elements in it. So it only has 2 capital letters. So now, you've got 2 capital letters. Ask yourself this. Number 1, does it begin with hydrogen and have AQ? If it does, it's an acid. Number 2, does it begin with a metal? If it begins with a metal, it's ionic. Number 3, if it begins with a non-metal, it has to be covalent. So those are 3 different binary naming systems. Acid, ionic, covalent. 2 elements only though.
If it's ionic, then they'd start with mono D.
No, that's covalent. Covalent begins with the prefixes. 2 nonmetals together, you need to put prefixes to describe how many of each element there are.
And then for ionic?
Ionic, you name the metal. You name the nonmetal, you change the ending to IDE. Okay? So, ternary has 3 or more capital letters in it. Ternary means that it has to involve a polyatomic ion. 4 capital letters, ternary. 3 capital letters, ternary. 2 capital letters, binary. 3 capital letters. How many capital letters? 2. So, binary. Now, again, I would begin with this. All the ones that are binary, what do we write down? We write down hydro. All of their names will begin with hydro. All of their names will end with what? Ic acid. So I need to describe the acid with carbon in it. So that's hydro, carbonic acid. Now I would also accept hydrocarbic acid.
Which one's right?
Hydrocarbic is right.
You just like hydrocarbon.
Well, here's the thing. I want you to understand the naming system. The naming system says put hydro in front. The naming system says put ic acid. Now, we will probably never use hydrocarbonic acid or hydrocarbic acid.
You said that about
I understand we can make this acid, and I understand that if you begin with hydro and end with ic acid, you are naming it correctly. So without being exposed to this stuff and it's talked about and things like this, you're not going to learn the name very well. So since we're not going to worry about it, If you accidentally leave the ON in here, I will accept it. If you take it out, I will accept it. Okay? Now, what I won't accept is if you do hydrochlorinic acid. You got to drop that INE ending on chlorine and make it into an ic acid. Okay? If you gave me hydronitric, you left the OG in it, I would accept it, even though it should go back all the way to the R and be hydronitric acid. Again, it is hard for you to know these without having gone over them and over them and over them and over them. As long as you are attempting to drop part of the ending, put an ic acid on it, I will give you credit for it. Okay? So that's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay? Again, the way you learn these is by using them and using and using them. This is not one that you're going to use. So what would HI be? And don't say hi. Hydroiodic acid. Okay? Hydroiodic acid.
Why not iodic? Yeah, why not iodic?
Because it's iodine, so they emphasize the O. So hydroiodic acid uses the same basic pronunciation. Again, if you tell me hydroiodic acid, I'm not going to argue with you. But again, I'm just trying to expose you to the way they should be. But again, without hearing it and without seeing it, it's kind of like the first day of school when I'm reading some of your names and I'm massacring them. Until you hear them said over and over again, you probably don't learn them.
What's massacre?
Destroy.
Thank you. Doing a really bad job
I
of it.
thought it was killing.
Yeah.
That's another version of
It just means it's something really bad.
yeah.
Massacre. Like it's Valentine's Day.
Great. Fake holiday coming up. Wonderful. Yes, it's not real.
Sounds like you're saying
All right, what is SE?
Sounds like
Hydroselenic
my sister was a NASCAR driver.
acid. Okay? So those are our binary ones. That's done. For ternary ones, we've named them based off of the polyatomic. C2H3O. What polyatomic is that? Try again. Acetate. That is acetate that has lost one oxygen. So if it is an ITE ending, what happens to the acid? No.
No, it's us.
An ITE ending becomes an OUS acid. An ATE ending becomes an ic acid. Might be a good idea to write this down somewhere on your periodic table. Probably on the back by the polyatomics so that it doesn't confuse you.
So ic acid equals polyatomic, then OUS equals I.
Right. Or an ITE polyatomic equals an OUS acid, and an ATE polyatomic equals an ic one. You could say either one first or what. However, it doesn't change the rule. So acetate becomes
What's an F1 driver? What is that?
acetus acid.
This means pronunciation.
I see this.
Doesn't sound right.
I understand that. But since you guys have never heard of these acids, I don't know how we can know what does and doesn't sound right.
No, like just saying it.
I understand that. I understand that. Who knows? Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Wait, in like different languages, do they pronounce it differently? Like, actually, yes. Like, if a German said it, would it sound like this?
Yeah, well, they would.
I honestly do not know if in another language if they have a different way of naming these elements. I don't know. I think the periodic table is pretty universal, meaning chlorine is chlorine everywhere. It's not like in German they have another word for chlorine. It's kind of like your name in any language is your name. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So whether I say your name in English or in Spanish or in German or in whatever language, it should basically sound the same, correct?
Almost.
Almost. Okay, good. I'll take that. Okay. All right. So what's BO3? What? What polyatomic is BO3? Borate. So ATE ending, what acid does this become? So that is boric acid. PO3.
Phosphate acid. That's what I have.
Well, let's start with the polyatomic. What's the polyatomic?
Phosphorus.
No, cannot.
Phosphate.
Phosphate.
Yes.
ATE ending. No. This is PO3.
Phosphite.
This is phosphite. ITE ending. So what kind of acid does this become? Phosphorus acid. Now, why did they put the OR back in there? Because it sounds better. Okay? Because it sounds better. But if you were to put it as phosphorus acid, I would still give you credit for it.
Wait, how do you say it?
It. You asked me, how do you say it? I said it.
Oh my god, you're so funny.
How do you say the name?
The name.
Phosphorus
Phosphorus
acid.
acid. Okay? Question.
Boy, I have a question.
I got an answer. Go ahead.
Is today your day?
Today, every day is my day.
Yesterday didn't feel like
Every day is my day. You're just living in my world for a while.
I don't think
Yesterday was a good day.
Was it?
Yep, it was.
I thought the first time.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you still have
9 minutes.
20 minutes left, somewhere around there. What is it? Yeah, 20 minutes left.
Me and Levi are leaving.
Thank goodness. Go to work, ladies and gentlemen, because the only way you're going to get better is to practice them.
Okay.
If you have questions, call me over. Answer keys are online if you want to check the answer keys. If you run into an answer you think is wrong on the answer key, let me know. I will check it. Okay? But the only way you're going to get better at these is to do them. And if you've been sitting around just sitting there and copying them after I'm done, you're not getting any better at it. And I'm going to find out how good you are on this on Friday.
I'm pretty good.
Remember that one time you were wrong, like most of, like basically the whole page, and I told you were right, and then you changed it, and then you tried to like gaslight me into thinking that it was.
Are you talking about?
I do kind of remember that. I do remember.
Look at this. Yes.
No
and you
idea.
had like a huge mistake, and then I told you.
And then you went to the Google Doc and then you were
Yeah.
switching it as she was trying to look at it.
Yeah.
He had another mistake on
I really have no idea what you're talking about.
And you're like, are you sure? I think you need to refresh your mind.
And when she refreshed her page, what happened?
It was
It
crazy.
changed because you went over there and changed it.
Because I told you because you were
I don't
wrong.
want to be wrong.
Can you not handle being wrong?
I don't say
Is it
it's
really
not
hard
like
for you?
being
It's
wrong.
not
Does it bother you?
I was never a straight A student, so I guess I've been wrong before. It's been a long time, and I'd like you to name one time, but anyway, besides that, no.
My sister's name is
Would you like me to name one time?
What do you think your wife did on?
That assignment
What?
yesterday that I was like,
Absolutely nothing.
What do you mean?
Oh.
What part of that do you not understand? The absolutely or the nothing part? Because I thought it was pretty
She
self-explanatory.
basically owned Google.
It's not self-explanatory to not get her something on Valentine's Day. You love her.
Yes, it is. And isn't that enough?
That's not anything at all.
Why?
Because you're not doing anything.
They
Your
say you
love's not
can't
worth
put a
anything.
price on love. Why do people try to put a gift on it then?
Your love's not worth anything.
It's to show appreciation
That was her when she was yesterday.
For what?
When she was little.
for her love.
Did she get you anything?
For love.
Exactly.
So we're even.
High school to
Very fair.
What if love is not
Right.
Then she would have gotten him something, so then he would have gotten her
right?
something.
Which means she doesn't love him enough.
But what if her love is more than his love and his love isn't enough?
Right.
That she should
What if she's waiting on his love so that she can get back?
Exactly.
Well, she's been waiting for 26 years, so
Doesn't seem like she's gonna stop.
Is that how long you've been teaching?
yes.
You got married right when you started teaching?
My wife and I got married in July, and we started teaching in September of that year. Levi, don't ruin it by putting stupid words like that into it.
I was talking.
I
Good.
don't think the words me and Mr. Bryan could be associated.
Actually, yes.
Not unless it's he's eating before that word. He's eating something sweet.
You ate.
Sounds like a word.
Literally, she be saying shit like Mr. Brown is her.
He ate.
He really is.
Oh, what is this?
I don't know.
Wait,
There's 4 capital letters.
it's a rant.
There's 4 purple letters.
No, there's 4 capital letters and there's no metal.
Very possible.
It's a ternary ionic.
No, you don't.
Can I see?
No, you're not allowed.
Just answer.
Yeah.
Turn your periodic table, look at the second one from the top. Turn it over. Turn it over. Second one from the top.
Whoa! I didn't know ammonium was in it.
Oh my
We had you highlighted in green, which you didn't do.
I put a plus next to it.
Mr. Bryan, you look like
I'm gonna highlight
right
it.
here. It's like the different descriptions. I always mix them up.
Super is above. Superman flies over the city. The subway goes underground. Sub is down below. Hello?
I did a subway and I think it was sandwich.
Dang, that
I'm not like that.
Oops.
I don't
Well,
think
then you need to get like that.
Smart,
See, the thing is, it's not up to me to write those things down. It's up to you to put those notes down, which is why I let you put whatever notes you want on your periodic table and on your solubility reference sheet.
Mr. Brand, can I take my quiz?
Which one?
That one.
The unit 2 quiz 1. Something like that.
Unit 2, quiz 1.
Yeah, I think I have it. The one, the measurement quiz. That I took.
That's so old.
I took it. I wrote it.
Well, you couldn't have taken it in Google Classroom.
No, it was a paper, but I just.
So where's your paper?
I can't find it.
Okay, well.
That's not good.
It's not.
Okay, well.
That's why I'm asking you to take it.
We have an issue here.
Tengo la baña de decir eso por cada rato me la paso haciendo aquí.
And that's the only quiz I'm missing. But I'm pretty sure I did. That means if I find it.
You know what I really like is how you qualify that. I'm pretty sure I took it. Not, yeah, I know I took it. I'm pretty sure, meaning maybe not.
Well, at least she's pretty sure.
Correct.
There's a little doubt in there. Just because it's a
Binary covalent is
Binary covalent uses prefixes.
What the freak? What is this?
So you've got to describe how many of each there are. That is probably the easier naming system. You don't have to worry about charges. The name literally tells you what the compound is.
Cynthia, you ate.
I think
Your name is in there.
Cynthia,
cyanide.
Sorry.
she's poisonous.
Levi, why are you have such judgmental face? You're like,
That's just my face.
did you see his face
No.
when they were talking to him?
Is it the white face or?
The white person face? Yes, I know exactly what
I think it's the white
What is the
face.
white person face?
Like that.
I don't think I have that face. You kind of remind me of.
I can use this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
You don't need to worry about the email part.
Okay. I'm just gonna write my name on it.
Good. That'd be the way to go.
How many pages in type?
Can I leave now?
That was a good
5.
Wait.
Why would you ask me? I tell you, and then you be, really?
For 2 minutes.
I don't know. It seems like every time you do this, it takes longer.
Oh, this is a conversion. I see, I know I took this. See, I know I took this. Let me find out.
Goodbye. Thank
Bye.
goodness you're leaving.
I know, right?